Have you been told to avoid bread if you want to lose weight, or that carbs are the enemy? Yeah, me too. Here's what's wild is I have been eating 4 slices of bread every single day and I'm still losing weight. In fact, I've actually lost 50 pounds eating bread every single day, and it helped me to break through a plateau. It's also helped my gut microbiome and my gut health to get healthier. But here's the difference. I'm not using store-bought flour. I'm actually milling my own grains. I have my green mill and my hard wheat berries right here. And by the way, if you're new here, I'm Amber and this is Georgie. And today we're making bread and talking about what milling my own flour has taught me about real food and nourishing myself deeply, especially while losing weight and getting healthy as part of this whole adaptation of slow living. So grab your coffee and let's spend some time together in the kitchen today. And by the way, I just have to put a little PSA in here. This is not turning into a food channel on how to make food and recipes and all of that. I'm still dealing with my kidney issue and I need to do things that are simple and that allow me to stay here in the house. So until I get through this, which is still, I've got a couple more weeks left, I'm gonna be in the house. I can't really go anywhere, but you guys wanted to know about one, how I was losing weight, which was a couple of videos ago, and then also about the bread making that I had mentioned. So I thought I'd give you a couple things that you guys were asking for. Here's the thing, is that when I researched all of this and found out all of the health benefits and the stories that I was hearing from people about how it had reversed cholesterol issues and reversed bad A1C numbers. They weren't pre-diabetic anymore. They weren't type 2 diabetic anymore. It was astounding to me what I was discovering, and it fits right into this slow living and my diet about getting healthy and really nourishing myself. So what I found is that of the 44 nutrients that we need in our bodies, bread, or this whole wheat grain that's milled into flour, has 40 of those nutrients. 40, which is astounding. So I thought I have to try this for myself. So one of the first things I did was, everybody was talking about this book from Sue Becker. It's called The Essential Homegrown Flour Book, and it has a ton of education in the beginning of the book and then a ton of recipes. So fresh milled flour does not act the same way that store-bought flour does. You have to do some certain processes in order to use it. Mostly is that it needs more liquid. So you also have to soak it so that the flour can actually soak in the water and get it to a point where it's usable and it behaves the same way that you would with flour that's store-bought. Today what I'm making is what's called Sue Becker's Basic Yeast Dough. Now it's the bread that I've been baking since I first started, and I've tweaked it a little bit here and there. So the first batch of bread that I made, the flavor was absolutely amazing. The second batch, it rose a lot quicker and had a higher rise, but it didn't taste the same. It was not as flavorful and rich. The biggest difference is the first batch I used active yeast, and the second batch I used instant yeast. But in the first batch, I had to actually let it ferment a little bit longer. I'm gonna show you that process. It's called sponge. I had to let it ferment for a couple of hours to get that sponge, the bubbly things that come up in the sponge on the dough. And in the second one, I think because of the instant yeast, the sponge was quicker, but it only fermented for like 30 minutes. So we're gonna go back to using active yeast today. And I'm actually going to do something a little bit differently that hopefully it will get a better rise. So we'll see if that actually works. But the flavor I think is going to be far better. This is sandwich bread that I'm making. It's going to bake 2 1-pound loaves. I have 1 slice in the morning for breakfast. I have 2 slices at lunch, typically in a sandwich form. And then I have another slice with my dinner. So it's amazing. I love it. I'm going to grind this grain. Now I'm going to have to mute the audio a little bit because the mill can get a little bit loud, and I actually wear some headphones because it does get a little bit loud. We have hard red wheat over here, and we also have hard white wheat. This is non-GMO, organic, from a company called Grand Teton Ancient Grains. We're gonna do half and half, 50% hard red, 50% hard white. I need a total of 4 to 4.5 cups of flour. I like to do 4.5 cups just in case I need a little extra. And that equates to about 3 cups of berries. We have our flour now. You can see how fine that is. The stone's grind that very fine. Now you might see like some little flecks in there. That is the bran and the germ that stays in there. That's one of the big differences with store-bought flour versus fresh milled flour, is that they strip the bran and the germ from the flour to make sure that it's shelf stable, but that's the good stuff, the nutrients that you need. One of the other reasons I wanted to show you guys how this works is because I don't want you to be afraid of it. It's really, really easy and something that I think most of us can do just with a little bit of education. So I researched a lot and I'm still learning. I'm seeking like that really good flavor. So for me, it's about experimenting and I don't know, just having fun with it. Now we're gonna do the sponge method. So I have 1 1/4 cup of water. I'm reserving about 1/4 cup for the activation of the active yeast, separate from this. So this is heated up to about 130 degrees. So I'm gonna pour that in my mixer. Then we need to use about 1/2 of the flour that we milled. So remember that was 3 cups of berries, but it equals 4 to 4.5 cups of flour. So here's 1 cup. We're gonna put in 2 cups of flour to make 1/2 of our flour. I'm also using only 1/2 of the yeast. I'm using the Red Star Active Dry Yeast. Okay, I'm gonna put that in. Now all we need to do is mix to incorporate all of this together, just enough so that it's mixed together but not starting to knead anything. And I'm actually gonna get my little dough scraper here and just push some of that down off the sides. And then I'm putting a towel over this and then I'm gonna put this in the oven with the oven light on for a couple of hours and let it do its little sponge ferment thing. So while that dough is rising, I want to talk to you guys about something that has really been helpful to me in the kitchen. First, I bought this kitchen island to create more counter space and a place to store all my equipment and my baking items, my grains, and more. However, the only problem is that I don't have any electrical outlets running to the island, and I didn't want to run a bunch of extension cords that could be a tripping hazard. So thankfully, the sponsor of this video, Blue Betty, has a solution for me. This is essentially a portable power station that I roll into the kitchen when I need it, and it has been an absolute game changer for my kitchen, especially because this kitchen island doesn't have an outlet. The Blue Eddy Elite 400 has 3,840 watt hours and it's powerful enough to handle 2,600 watts all at once. What that actually means in layman's terms is that I can power my mixer, my scale, my phone, keep my iPad charged up when I'm using it for recipes. It powers my grain mill, and I can do everything here on the island without having to decide, should I unplug this item so that I have enough watt capacity and this battery to handle all of the things that I'm asking this battery to do. It can literally handle multiple things running simultaneously so that I don't have to worry about things on baking days like this. It has 9 different outlets, so I've got a regular AC outlets for my mixer, my baking scale, and my grain mill. USB-C ports for charging my phone or my iPad while I'm following recipes, and even a DC outlet if I needed it. One of my absolute favorite features is that it's quiet. It's so quiet, you can't even hear it. There's no humming, it's just completely silent. I can focus on what I'm doing here. Behind the scenes, from a filming standpoint, is really nice because the camera is not hearing all the noise of some device that I have to post-production go fix. And even though this thing is powering my entire kitchen island right now, it's so easy to move. It has this handle on it that you can telescope up. It has built-in wheels so I can roll it wherever I need. It's just incredibly versatile. The charging is also really fast when you plug it into the wall. I can get it from empty to 80% charged in about 70 minutes, which is wild. And I can charge it in multiple ways. I can plug it into a regular wall outlet. I can also use solar panels, or I can even charge it in the car. I also use it for emergency preparedness. A couple weeks ago, my power went out. I can power my refrigerator so that food doesn't go bad. So make sure you click that link in my description box to get your very own Blue Eddy Elite 400. And make sure you use my discount code STORY6OFF to get 6% off for the next 3 months. This portable battery is something that I genuinely use every single day and has made my life so much easier, especially when I'm over here baking. Okay, Let's check out this dough and see if it's ready for the next step. It has been 2 hours now. We'll see what it looks like. Yep, it's got bubbles. So let's get this seated on here. So now we just add the rest of the ingredients. So we have a 1/3 cup of olive oil. You can use butter, any kind of oil you want that's kind of a neutral oil. We have 1 egg. I've also been letting the rest of the yeast activate. You can see it's a little bit bubbly. We have sunflower lecithin or lecithin. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's this, sunflower lecithin. Helps to produce a soft bread and it helps to crumb a little bit. It's a 1/3 cup of honey. Now I already added some of this honey to the activated yeast to give it a little bit of sugar to eat off of to help activate it. And I use raw honey. Next, we're gonna add in the rest of our yeast. This is an experiment to see if this is better than the first way I did it and definitely better than the second with the instant yeast. I know a lot of people like instant yeast because it's much faster, but I would prefer a longer fermentation period to help it taste better and have that richer, like almost nuttier flavor. We have all of our ingredients in there now, except for we do have some salt, but I'm gonna put that in after I mix this a little bit. You don't want the salt to touch the yeast just yet. We wanna get that activated all in there and mixed just so that it doesn't retard the yeast production. I'm gonna add in the salt. So the next thing that we need to do is we still have the 2.5 cups of flour. I'm gonna start adding this flour about 1/2 cup at a time. Now that all the flour and ingredients are in there, it's time to knead. This is gonna be a little bit of a test to see how long I need to knead it. When I kneaded it before on the first loaf using the active yeast, I had to knead for like 18 minutes, which is a very long time compared to what other people have done. I think I might have messed up the yeast, so I'm not sure. The instant yeast one, I only had to knead for 8 minutes. So we're gonna see how long I need to knead this for. And it is determined by what is called window pane. So once I get window pane in the dough, then it's gonna be ready. I'll show you what that looks like as we go along. I'm gonna set my timer here. Okay, start. I wanna show you the dough is kind of tacky but not sticky. So that's kind of how you want it when you first start to knead. We're at exactly 8 minutes. And you can see that the dough is actually starting to pull away from the bowl. We're gonna check for window pane right now. So see if I can pull some up. So the idea is to pull it apart, and if you can pull it without it breaking and you can see through it, which you can in this situation, it's done. So let me pull up another piece and see if I can do that. Wow. It's not completely pulling away from the bowl right now, but I've definitely got window pane. Look at that. That's good window pane. I may go just like 1 more minute just to see if it will kind of scrape the bowl a little bit. I think it's done. It hasn't completely scraped the bowl, but I'm a little concerned about over kneading, and it's now at almost 13 minutes. That's got good window pane. I'm just breaking a little bit right there, but I don't know. Okay, we're done. We're done. I don't want to do anymore. I agonize over all of the things that they say to do. Like, you're supposed to get the window pane, but you're also supposed to scrape the bowl. So here's a bowl. It's not completely clean. It should be clean on the sides when it's done. We're just gonna go with it. Time to let it rise. So I'm just gonna spray this container with some avocado oil so it doesn't stick. And I'm using this container because I know that usually when I put this dough in here, it comes up to this line. I put this sticker on here. And then I can know that it's doubled in size once it hits this 2-quart mark. That's the goal. Do my hands and this surface just a bit. Really hope that this kneaded long enough. We'll find out. Hopefully it's good. I see good gluten structure in there. I'll just spray my hands again so it doesn't stick. Okay. So now we're just going to roll this into a ball. Get it into a nice shape to go inside the container. And I'm gonna plop it down in here. Punch it down just a bit so that it's nice and level. And you can see it's up to that sticker. Now for this part, we need to put it in the oven and proof it. Now the oven is not actually on, and by the way, this is just a shower cap. We're gonna put it in the oven. It's on proof. Now my oven has a proof setting that's around anywhere between 75 and 80 degrees. It usually sits about 78 degrees in there. So if you have a proof setting on your oven, you can put it in the oven and do that. Otherwise, just use your oven light. This process typically takes about an hour, but when I did the active yeast before, it took like over 2 hours. So we'll see. And we can see how long this actually takes. So we're starting the timer now. While that is proofing, I'm going to grease the loaf pans. So I use cast iron. This is just a Lodge. It's an 8.5 by 4.5 loaf pan. This recipe bakes 2 1-pound loaves. The thing is though, is even though they're pre-seasoned, you really gotta slather it with a bunch of butter just so it can fall out easily, because otherwise it's gonna stick. I just put some butter in there, and then I grab my paper towel and move it all around. If you have an easier way of doing this, let me know. I don't want to put melted butter in there because I want it to be like cold when it goes on here and it sticks really nicely to all of the edges. So here's what it looks like when it's all greased up. We are done, I think. We're at 61 minutes, so just a little bit over an hour. And I believe it is done. Here we are. This is where we started, and it's risen to 2 quarts, which is perfect. The sides are all even. If I used a bowl that curves, which you see a lot of people do, I don't know as a newbie doing this where it has actually risen, if it's actually doubled in size. So this just takes the guesswork out of it. You want to punch it down. It helps to get a lot of the air out, so that when you put it in your loaf pan, it starts to bake. You don't have a bunch of air in it and then it deflates. Just gonna shape this into dough ball here. Going to weigh my dough ball. Okay, it's 1,241 grams. Divided by 2 is about 620 grams each is what we need each loaf to be. I'm a numbers girl. I like everything to be even. Cut this in half and see what that gets us. 667. We need it to be 620. There you go, 622. That's good. I've seen a bunch of different methods in shaping. I just like to get mine nice and smooth. And then, again, to flatten it out a little bit, just stretch it. And this helps to get those air pockets out of it. So I'm gonna pull this one in, here and here, and then I'm gonna roll it tightly. I'm gonna pull this in here, roll tightly. Okay, and then, well, just another way to get the air out. And I like it to be nice and smooth. We're gonna pinch those seams together on the bottom so it doesn't split. And on the sides, we're gonna roll that in. And then I like to do another little roll kind of with it to just smooth it all out. Put this in this loaf pan here. And then I like to, again, push it down just a bit to kind of even it out in the pan. Again, to get those air bubbles out. A lot of people use flour on the surface to keep it from sticking. We don't do that in fresh milled flour because you add too much flour to it, then it becomes dry and crumbly. So we want the surface to be oiled down a little bit so you can work with the dough. Pull it in this direction, start doing this tightly. Okay, I'm gonna do those seams, pinch them in, pinch the bottoms in on the sides. I'm going to do this again to get the air bubbles out. I can even see a bubble right there. Okay, smooth that out. See how I'm smoothing the bottom? Smooth that out. I'm gonna put in here. This is what the dough looks like when it's inside the pan. We can see the dough comes up about halfway up the pan. So when we proof it, we know that the dough needs to be just about even with the pan. Now we want to cover these with our little plastic wraps again, because we're going to do a second rise inside the oven on proof mode. Again, these want to double in size. Oven is still on proof. We're gonna slide these back in. It could potentially take an hour, but I'm going to start it now and check it in about 30 minutes. You don't want it to overproof, that's for sure. We are now at 96 minutes, and I just checked it. It's ready to go. So that took a fair amount of time, over an hour. I'm pretty sure the reason why it's rising much slower is the active yeast, but I'm okay with that. I'm gonna show you. Oh, look at this. So beautiful. I'm actually gonna start preheating my oven now to 350. Look at that rise. And I'm gonna check the proofing of it. Now this is the part that I'm still learning about too, is that when you put your finger in, if it bounces back slowly, it means it's proofed properly. So let's see. It's not bouncing back fast. Let's try this one. Now that one's doing well. This one didn't bounce back as much, but it's interesting because this has more of a rise on it than this one. The first one that I ever did that was like this, it didn't rise as much, and the indentation didn't come back as fast either. I don't know. It still tasted wonderful. I don't care. I'm gonna slide these in here now. This needs to go into the oven for 25 to 30 minutes, or once it reaches 190 degrees. Timer just went off. We've been at 25 minutes, just a little bit over it now. I'm gonna test the temperature. Looking very lovely, and it's nice and brown. It smells phenomenal in here, by the way. Like, I wish you guys could actually smell it in here. It's like a bakery. Oh my goodness. It smells so yummy. Look at that. Okay, I'm just gonna use this meat thermometer to do the temperature. Just kind of poke it in the side. We are at 190 degrees. We are done. Look at how beautiful that is. Nice and golden brown. Look at that beautiful brown. Woo. We're gonna let these cool right here for about 10 minutes, and then we'll take them out. Oh. 10 minutes is up. Look at that, it just pops right on out. I like to let it cool on its side so it doesn't fall. Look at that. I'm gonna let this cool slightly, and then I'm gonna have a piece. I'm gonna slice off one little piece, maybe a bigger piece, so that I can taste it, but it sure does look good. I've let this cool just a little bit. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Now, this looks more like the first one, where it's a little bit denser and it's not as airy, which is exactly what I was going for. A lot of people apparently like the very airy bread, but I liked this one because it just had a better flavor. So we're gonna see if it has that same flavor. And of course, I'm gonna slather on some butter here because why not? I'm telling you, I've been losing weight with this, guys, and my health is so much better. I feel more energized. I hope you try it. Okay, let's see. That is definitely more like the first one that I made. I love it so much better. I'm definitely going to do the active yeast from now on and let it ferment longer. Although it would be interesting to see if I use the instant yeast and let it ferment longer, if it would still do the same thing. I don't know. Interesting test to find out. It's still airy and soft. Look at how soft that is. And this, oh my gosh, with the butter on it. Well, good morning. It's time to cut the bread, but I wanted to first show you what I store the bread in for the freezer. So I bought this little bag here that rolls up and gets a lot of the air out. And it's protected on the inside from freezer burn. And then I just put the one loaf that I was gonna freeze last night into a Ziploc bag. I might find a better way because this bread was almost a little bit too big to fit in here. So if you guys have any suggestions for that, maybe saran wrap, but I'm not 100% sure yet. So anyways, okay. And then I just slide it inside this bag, and then I just kind of roll this over and get a lot of the air out and zip it up here. And then I'll roll it and lock it up. And there you have it, my little bread bag for the freezer. You can fit a couple of loaves in there. This is my bread box for the refrigerator. It's very nice because it keeps the bread where it doesn't get moldy. And I probably go through one loaf at least every 5 to 6 days. You want to make sure that you either eat it quickly or you store it in the fridge, because it will get moldy after about that 5th or 6th day if you leave it on the counter. It's because it's fresh milled grains and it just doesn't last long. It's live food. It's not like the store-bought flour that is made for shelf life. Here's my bread from last night. I have a couple of slices left over from my last loaf. It has a little, you can see like kind of like a breathing hole right here that allows a little bit of air so there's not moisture inside of there. And then every time you want a piece of bread, you just pop this little lid open, grab your bread, put it down, and put it back in the fridge. I will link it also down in the description. If you guys see products that I'm using, most of the time it's in my Amazon store. This is my bread cutter. I just love this thing because it cuts the most uniform slices. Although you can see I sliced at a slant with the manual knife, so this first one isn't gonna be pretty. We just have to even everything out, so see how it's kind of lopsided on the bottom. All right, but now we've got a nice straight edge. I wanna see if this is the proper thickness that I want. That might be a little too thick. Maybe I'm gonna go down just there. We'll try that. It's so nice because you can go up to like huge settings here where it's really wide, especially if you're doing like a sourdough, like a nice crusty bread. And so it just makes these nice uniform slices. So there you have it. All my bread is sliced. That was really easy. Guys, thank you so much for joining me in this bread baking experiment. I'm having so much fun with it. I'm still learning, but I have a lot of resources that I can point you to as you want to learn this process. Let me know in the comments if you're already doing this or if you have any tips for me as I'm making my bread. You probably saw something I was doing wrong in the process where I could do better, so leave me that comment as well. And if you want to know more information, I'm happy to provide some extra resources if you're wanting to learn more about it. I would definitely start with the Sue Becker book. I also have this linked in my Amazon store, so if you can, please buy it through me. There's no extra cost for you. It just helps my channel, helps to support it, and I get like a little commission off of it. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Bye guys.